everybody, welcome to the show. Around the Nation right here, TYT Nation. I'm your host, Jeff Waldorf. Welcome. We got a good Thursday show for you guys today. A lot of stuff to talk about. Obviously, it's a Trump day. So, oh boy. Here we go again. Yes, we've got a lot of Trump news. We're going to be talking about that. Look, today's like the damage report day. Like, we got a lot of important stuff about what he's doing in Puerto Rico. We've got, let's see, talk about the ACA, what President Trump is doing to undermine the ACA, all that stuff. Also, in like more of the insider stuff, the palace intrigue stories that I love, always love doing. That kind of stuff. And then we've got non-Trump stuff, which is a little bit of justice. So we're going to leave you with a good story at the end of the show. So you have to stick around for that. Let me get this tweet sent out here. And then before we start the show, I want to thank some people. Obviously, I want to thank the patrons. Patreon.com/TYTNation. I have a couple names I want to shout out. That is Camille Wren, Orlando Silverio, Philip Morrison, Pam, Scott Nimitz, Dan Peachy, Stephen Nordby, Karen Fogelsong, Jacob Torrey, Rogue X, and Chris Heimbuck. So thank you to all those patrons and everyone else who supports us on Patreon, whose name I did not call. The show goes, I mean, the show would not exist without you. So it's thanks to you that we're still here. So thank you very much for your support. All right. Couple of other things, other ways to support the show. Of course, you can give us a like and give us a share on social media. You know, like I said, share us on Twitter, Facebook, wherever, and hit the thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the show so you can get all the different clips and stuff that we put out. So you'll also be in the know whenever there's another live stream. Of course, we go live every 3 p.m. here, Eastern, 3 to 4 p.m. So tune in then. All right. So with that all settled, let's get into the stories because, like I said, we got a lot of stuff to do. So let's just get into that. All right. So let's actually start out with one of the most important stories, lead stories of the day, and that's what's going to happen with the ACA. As soon as I can find it, that is, here we go. I'm having one of those days. It's like a Monday, but it's on a Thursday. It's weird. All right. So now President Trump signed an executive order on Thursday morning, which would undercut the health insurance marketplaces under the Affordable Care Act. So this is his attempt to sabotage Obamacare since they couldn't get rid of it, right? That's one of the things that he wanted to do. Oh, let's get rid of the ACA. Let's ruin the healthcare system. I mean, that's what would happen under the Trump Care bill. That's why it failed. That's why so many people were against it. While it had a 17% approval rating, somewhere around there, everybody hated that bill, okay? And for good reason. So now that it did not pass, Trump's like, well, I got to do something. Oh, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sabotage it. Now, when he tweeted that out, everybody's like, no, he wouldn't actually do that, right? What, are you kidding? What do you think we're dealing with? Of course he's going to sabotage it. And this is what he's going to do. So now, again, this is an executive order that he had just signed. So what does it actually do? Well, according to the Washington Post, the order would expand the availability of short-term insurance policies. Now, those policies offer limited benefits meant as a bridge for people that are between jobs or young adults no longer eligible for their parents' health plans. So the idea of short-term insurance is not a bad thing necessarily, But however, these plans typically offer a very limited amount of benefits. And of course, when you shrink the amount of benefits inside of a healthcare plan, it's going to make the healthcare plan cheaper. Now, what are people going to do when the healthcare plan is cheaper? Ooh, we're going to go and buy the cheaper health insurance. Now, the Obama administration, they saw this when they were crafting the ACA, and they're like, okay, we understand that there's a need for this, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to shorten the amount to, we're going to limit it to you to 3 months. Okay, then you actually have to find some real insurance. Now, the Trump plan, what it would do is that it would eliminate that limit of 3 months and actually change it to a year. So now you've got a year to go and find actual insurance. Now, that, of course, harms the marketplaces, as now people do not actually have to go and get real insurance that actually covers things. That ends up making things far more expensive to people who have those real insurance plans that actually need them. That's people with pre-existing conditions and health problems, okay? So, you know, there's another piece of this executive order that concerns something called association health plans, and that also will serve to undermine and harm plans under the ACA. Now, associations, Vox explains, are a way for a group of small businesses to pool together to buy insurance, which gives them more purchasing power and access to cheaper premiums. Now, that's not a bad thing. Having an association in a system like ours currently is, okay, hey, that makes sense, right? Get them together so they can pool together, they can buy cheaper insurance, and they can actually give their employees better insurance options. Wonderful. I'm in favor of that. Now, these plans had existed, they exist now under the ACA, but they also existed before the ACA. And while crafting the ACA, we noticed that there was a little bit of a problem with these associations. Now, as Vox explains, these associations pre-Obamacare could pick and choose which state's insurance rules they wanted to follow and to use those rules to guide the plans that they offered nationwide. Now, for example, they used the Bakers Association, right? Well, they could choose to follow the rules for, say, Alabama, right? Alabama ain't got a lot of rules, okay? So those rules basically cover things like what kind of coverage is mandated, right? Now, like I said, Alabama is a very sparsely regulated insurance market, so they don't require or mandate a lot of benefits, right? So pre-Obamacare, these trade groups can come in and be like, or these associations can come in and say, okay, we're going to take the Alabama plan, which is cheaper on us, and is actually also cheaper for our employees. Okay. Now, the problem is that they could go across state lines. So this company that is not located in Alabama uses Alabama's mandates and applies them in New York, Massachusetts, California, Kansas, wherever they have businesses at. That's a bit of a problem. Again, that was cheaper for the company and cheaper for people who are actually getting insurance through the company, but it did result in insurance that skirted state rules, and it was basically them offering junk insurance plans that didn't really cover a whole lot. Again, good for people who are young and healthy, but people who are older and actually need more comprehensive insurance plans, it didn't do diddly squat. So again, if you're in that company or you're a young person, you're winning with this plan. Now, if you become ill or injured or get cancer or anything like that, well, then you're screwed. Now, a former insurance regulator described the situation prior to the ACA to Vox's Sarah Cliff as being, quote, a race to the bottom. That's what the system was, right? With some associations offering lower cost plans that covered virtually nothing. Now, the ACA came along and actually changed that, right? After the ACA, the association health plans were now treated as small businesses and were therefore required to cover all of the law's mandated benefits. So these are basically your essential benefits, okay? And we talk a lot about that, right? Because those are the things that are mandated. Now, there's a lot of conservatives that are like, well, why should I have to pay for Alabama? Like, why should I have to pay for maternity coverage when I'm a man? I got a penis, and I shouldn't have to pay for maternity coverage. Well, you're not paying for your own maternity coverage. What you're doing is you're paying into a pool so that, like, you don't understand how insurance works. Everybody pays into a pool and then it pays out when somebody has a claim. So, again, these conservatives that complain about it, they don't understand how the insurance market works. Okay. Now, these essential benefits are just that. They're essential for everybody. And what the ACA did is they mandated it for everyone. But under the executive order, the new regulations will seek to expand the use of association health plans, easing federal rules that require associations to be from the same state and that prevent associations from forming exclusively to provide health coverage. So what they're doing is that they're eliminating some of these regulations and eliminating the need for people to follow, or for these associations to follow, the essential health benefits mandates. Okay. The result could be, in many cases, that these new association health plans would now be considered large employers when it comes to health insurance. Large employers are not subject to the same rules as individual or small group plans under the ACA, and they do not have to cover all the law's essential health benefits or meet the requirement that insurance cover a minimal percentage of a person's medical bills. Okay. So basically, all that said, boiled down simply is, here comes the return of cheap, skimpy plans. Now, the businesses that are left on the exchange that actually do want to provide comprehensive benefits to their employees, they're going to see their costs rise even more as these companies with healthy workers that want cheaper plans will leave the exchanges and go and get private insurance off the exchanges. That means it destroys the small group market. Now, the other thing that they're talking about doing is saying that, well, we're not just going to allow only associations to be able to waive these rules. We're actually going to consider letting individuals buy plans as well. And if they do that, it's good night, Irene. Welcome to a death spiral. So that's what we have. So again, there's a lot of, it's pretty complicated. There's a lot of stuff in here that they're changing, that they're tweaking to try and basically send Obamacare into a death spiral, which is what they've been trying to do all along. Now, first they wanted to eliminate it. Since they can eliminate it, okay, we're going to sabotage it, and that's exactly what this is. And they've actually done it now. Trump has effectively undermined the ACA. Now, this will not be immediate. It will not immediately crash into a death spiral, but it will take some time, and it also depends on how it's enacted if they allow individuals. But overall, it will hurt the ACA markets and will effectively drive up premiums for people with pre-existing conditions. So that's not good at all. And what's interesting is that this comes at a time where a majority of the country is calling out for better insurance through a single-payer healthcare system. You've got a majority, over 60% of the American public, that are saying, okay, we want Medicare for all. Just open up Medicare. Let us in. Let us in. Let us in. They're knocking at the door. So why don't we let them in? Well, apparently there are conservatives that don't want to. There are people in the government that don't want to, because it's like, oh man, if they find out how good our insurance is, well then everybody's going to want it. Well, that sucks for us, because then our friends in the insurance industry don't get paid as much. Ooh, that sucks. We don't want to lose those campaign contributions from those health insurance companies, you know what I'm saying? And big pharmaceutical companies, which will also lose money under a single-payer system, because then you could actually have the government negotiate for cheaper drugs. I know, right? But so here comes the GOP with their answer to that and saying, no, let's just sabotage Obamacare. And then when it all falls apart, we'll just go back to the way it was before the ACA, where our rich friends continue to make more and more money, and millions of people died from access to affordable health care. Wonderful. Okay. So, and it seems like they're getting rid of it just out of spite. Now, again, all of this could have been avoided with a single-payer system that actually gives people health care. Not just access to health care, which the ACA did, but actual real health care, where it's guaranteed. But this is the problem with the ACA. Again, I will defend the ACA against the Republicans, but I'm also one of those people who's like, hey, you know what, we can actually do better? Because the ACA actually wasn't our plan. This was the Republican plan, and yes, while it did some positive things, it's also open to these different kinds of attacks. And that's exactly what they're doing, is that they're taking advantage of the law's own weaknesses in order to destroy it, in order to undermine it. And he's doing it via executive order. Now, I could go into the hypocrisy of all the Republicans that are like, executive orders are bad, except when something happens, except when Trump does something like this. In the case of Rand Paul, who thought, oh, you can't make laws by executive order. You can't do this by executive order. Back when Obama was president. And then he's like, as soon as Trump signs this executive order, this is the best executive order ever. Hypocrisy. But again, all this could have been avoided had we actually started the fight with single payer and not with what we have now. And it puts us in the weird position of actually having to fight just to keep a measure which is incredibly inaccurate to begin, inadequate to begin with, from getting that much worse. And that's sort of sad. Okay. Now, with that said, let's go into the next story here. Okay. Now, President Trump continues to be angry about the lack of respect from his Republican colleagues, so much so that many in the White House describe it as being consumed with dark moods. But it actually gets much worse than that. According to Gabriel Sherman, writing for Vanity Fair, several people close to the president have recently said in private that Trump is now unstable, losing a step, and unraveling. Now, he writes, the conversation among some of the president's longtime confidants, along with the character of some of the leaks emerging from the White House, has shifted. There is a new level of concern. Now, recently, NBC News, as you know, published a report where Trump shocked his national security team when he called for a nearly tenfold increase in the country's nuclear arsenal. One Trump advisor confirmed to Sherman that it was after that meeting that Secretary of State Rex Tillerson called Trump a fucking moron. Because only a fucking moron would want to spend trillions of dollars. And that's how much it would cost. Trillions of dollars and like at least a decade adding more and more nukes to our arsenal that we're never going to need and hopefully will never use. Again, we've given Trump access to the nuclear codes, so who knows if that'll change. But again, tenfold increase. So a fucking moron, right? Now, Sherman spoke with about a half a dozen prominent Republicans and Trump advisors, and they all describe a White House in crisis as advisors struggled to contain a president who seems to be increasingly unfocused and consumed by dark moods. Trump's ire is being fueled by his stalled legislative agenda, and to a surprising degree, by his decision last month to back Luther Strange. Now, what's interesting is that Luther Strange was part of the establishment. Roy Moore is insane, but he's part of that anti-establishment Republican wave. Now, the Republicans in Congress are like, oh, no, you need to back Luther Strange. Trust me, he's going to win. Everything's going to be fine. We can't let Roy Moore into office because that's going to end up hurting you in the long run. Trump, being an idiot, says, oh, okay, I'll back Luther Strange. He gave him his endorsement, and Luther Strange won. That was incredibly embarrassing to the president, and so he hasn't forgotten about it. In fact, he's super, super angry. A person close to Trump said, quote, Alabama was a huge blow to his psyche. He saw the cult of personality was broken. Now, okay, so that explains why Trump seems to be scrambling to get back to his base by doing more campaign-style rallies, sabotaging the ACA, as we saw today, and even reneging on the deals that he made with the Democrats. What he's trying to do is he's trying to rebuild that personality cult, right? Now, why would you want to do that? Well, if you're Trump, you need constant affirmation. That's somebody that seems to be very insecure. I don't know why. He's president of the United States. But he seems to be very insecure and always has to have people praise him and say, oh, you're doing such a good job, Donnie. You're so tremendous. You're such a fantastic guy. Everybody loves Trump. So that would explain why he's like, I can't wait to get back in front of the crowds where people actually like me. Now, because like I said, right now, he's getting a lot of criticism from inside the White House and from outside the White House, too. In fact, according to two sources familiar with the conversation, Trump had vented to his longtime security chief while he was still there, Keith Schiller, saying, quote, I hate everyone in the White House. There are a few exceptions, but I hate them. Now, does that sound like a guy who's super happy to be there? I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying. I'm also saying snowflake. But, hey, by the way, the feeling is mutual. Everybody hates you as well. But anyway, or at least most of America. Now, anyway, two senior Republican officials also said that Chief of Staff John Kelly is miserable. He later on, he came out actually earlier today saying, oh, no, that's not true. I'm not miserable at all. I'm not leaving at all. But let me continue with this. He said, according to these officials, Kelly is miserable and is remaining out of a sense of duty to keep Trump from making some sort of disastrous decision. We've heard that a lot from unnamed insiders and officials. But again, Kelly came out earlier this morning and was like, no, that's not true at all. I love being here. Can I go now? It's the same sort of weird sort of fealty pledge that Rex Tillerson had come out last week. So, I don't know. It's a little weird. Nonetheless, how long he'll stay is an open question. But again, there's more speculation that he's fed up with being in the administration. In fact, Politico recently reported that Kelly's deputy, Kirsten Nielsen, is likely to be named Homeland Security Secretary. Now, the theory among some Republicans is that Kelly wanted to give her a soft landing before his departure. Again, we don't know if that's true or not. We'll see. We'll have to see. Now, one former official even speculated that Kelly and Secretary of Defense James Mattis have discussed what they would do in the event that Trump ordered a nuclear strike. The person asked, would they tackle him? Imagine tackling the guy with the nuclear football, as if you're playing a game of real football. The fact that one man has the power to launch the most powerful weapons in human history is disturbing enough. I mean, I've had a problem with every president having access to nuclear weapons. I don't think that they're a good thing to have around. I don't think they're a great deterrent. But look, the fact that we have this president, especially, having access to the nuclear football, well, that's just pure nightmare fuel. Okay? It was disturbing before, but boy, is it bad now. Now, even Trump's most loyal backers are starting to publicly express doubts. In fact, this morning, the Washington Post quoted longtime Trump friend Tom Barrack, saying he has been, quote, shocked and stunned by Trump's behavior. You also have Neil Cavuto coming out against the president, saying he's losing friends fast. You even have what's his name? I'm blanking on him for some reason. Rush Limbaugh. There we go. Rush Limbaugh coming out and saying, like, oh, I'm a little nervous about Trump and what he's doing. He's losing his friends, man. Now, again, we know John Kelly's doing his best to try to make sure that Trump doesn't do anything stupid, but there's only so much you can do when the president is stupid all the time. In fact, Sherman writes, while Kelly cannot control Trump's tweets, he's doing his best to physically sequester the president, much to Trump's frustration. One major GOP donor told me that's Gabriel Sherman, access to Trump has been cut off, and his outside calls to the White House switchboard are not put through the Oval Office. And earlier this week, Sherman also reported on Kelly's plans to prevent Trump from mingling with guests at Mar-a-Lago when he goes later this month. And according to two other sources, Keith Schiller quit last month after Kelly told Schiller that he needed permission to speak to the president and wanted written reports of their conversations. So, now, not only that, but people in the White House are allegedly worried about Trump's public appearances. Now, one advisor tells Vanity Fair that the aides were relieved when Trump declined to appear on the season premiere of 60 Minutes. They said, quote, he's lost a step. They don't want him doing adversarial TV interviews. the advisor explained. Instead, Trump has sat down for only friendly conversations with Sean Hannity and Mike Huckabee, whose daughter is Trump's press secretary. And boy, has those conversations been one just giant circle jerk. Going round and round in that circle. Anyway. Now, even before Corker's remarks, by the way, some West Wing advisors were worried that Trump's behavior could cause the cabinet to take extraordinary constitutional measures to remove him from office. Several months ago, according to two sources with knowledge of the conversation, former chief strategist Steve Bannon told Trump that the risk to his presidency wasn't impeachment, but the 25th Amendment, the provision by which a majority of the cabinet can vote to remove the president. When Bannon mentioned the 25th Amendment, Trump reportedly asked, "What's that?" Maybe you should have read up on that. Oh, right. He doesn't read. He's so screwed. And again, even his allies know he's screwed. Bannon says that, or Bannon has told people that he thinks that Trump only has a 30% chance of making the entire full term. Now, I know how they're going to spin that. Oh, no, we were just kind of sick of winning. Like, our heads literally need a break from spinning so much from all that winning. You know, all the winning we've been doing for the last 10 months, need a break. But no, seriously, though. If this happens, Trump will, of course, blame the establishment, the fake news media, the Democrats, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, and then, of course, creates its own problems, right? But it is actually starting to look like a real possibility that he won't reach his full term. And I think that's a good thing, because at this point, we got to get him out of here before he destroys the country. He's dangerous. And he's shown me. He's shown the entire country that the guy is dangerous. And look, it's obvious, if these reports are true, that he's not happy. And it's obvious from the polling that Americans are not happy. And so I think it's time for him to go back to Trump Tower, where he belongs. Okay. There's a theme today. Get the guy out before he destroys the world. Okay. Now, it's no secret that Republicans know that Trump is a dangerous idiot. They know that he's extremely unfit for office, that he's way in over his head, and he's got to be stopped before he does something stupid. So the big question, I guess, is that why haven't they? Well, Robert Reich, Clinton former labor secretary, he actually wanted to figure that out, so he decided to reach out to one of his old friends, an ex-Republican congressman. Now, he reached out and he had a conversation, decided to post that conversation on Facebook, on social media. Now, the ex-congressman said that the Republicans are pretty much right now just praying that Trump doesn't do something really, really stupid. Good luck with that. Hey, I hope so too, man. Good Lord. Anyway, now he was speaking to his friend over the phone and said that, and asked whether or not Republican senators were preparing to follow Senator Bob Corker and basically call it quits with Donald Trump. His source told him others are thinking about doing what Bob did, sounding the alarm. They think Trump's nuts, unfit, dangerous. He said that the U.S. president's personal attacks on his own staff, quote, got them to notice all the other things, such as the threats about North Korea. Now, wait a minute here. How could you guys dismiss all that stuff? What, did you have your hands up your asses for the last 10 months? It's obvious. It's out there. Okay, it was known. It was very well known that this guy is a dangerous idiot and that he could get us into a war. I'm frankly shocked that he hasn't already. But boy, has he been getting close. Now, but of course, this, I think, goes back to the typical conservative mindset. Oh, God, I had no idea this was happening until it actually impacted me. Until they actually went after my people, my friends, my tribe. I had no idea that he was unfit and dangerous. That's just a little bit of that mindset. And maybe I'm wrong, but He continues. He said that Tillerson would leave tomorrow if he wasn't so worried Trump would go nuclear, literally. And like I said, that's no joke. Remember, over the summer, he asked his generals to if he could increase the nuclear stockpile tenfold. That led Tillerson to call him a fucking moron. But look, not only would increasing the stockpile of nuclear weapons be dangerous, also be prohibitively expensive. It would cost trillions and trillions of dollars. And also would take incredibly long to implement, far, far beyond Trump's term. But nonetheless, he's like, he doesn't understand anything. So it's like, oh yeah, more nukes, more nukes. We need more nukes. I'm mad that we have less nukes. There's more. The source says, who knows what's in his head, but I can tell you this. He's not listening to anyone, not a soul. That's kind of his thing. Yeah, he doesn't listen to anyone but himself. That's kind of what Trump is. He's like, oh, I don't care about what anybody else says. I only care about what I say. And I only care about things that you say when you say something nice about me. If you're not saying anything nice, if you're not kissing my ass, I don't care. Now, he continues. He's also got the nuclear codes. And well, it scares the hell out of me. It's starting to scare all of them. That's really why Bob spoke up. Now, when asked what would happen if Republican leadership said Mr. Trump was unfit to serve, this is a very interesting answer. The former senator said, quote, bingo, the emperor has no clothes. It's a signal to everyone they can bail, have to bail to save their skins. I mean, Trump could be the end of the whole goddamn Republican Party. So now let me point out here that something that I thought was very interesting. Now, I've said before that Trump is a symptom of a much greater problem. For the last 30 years, a good number of conservatives in this country have further isolated themselves by actually tuning out facts that don't fit their agenda. Now, they listen to people like, ironically, Rush Limbaugh, Bill O'Reilly, Alex Jones, and people who are essentially just extreme, and they ignore anything, any piece of information, whether it's factually proven or not, that does not fit their agenda. Now, you add in the continued neoliberal push by the Democrats, as they continue to go right, and the corporate establishment, and you end up with angry, desperate people that are looking for someone to blame. And they find it back in that right-wing hate media. Oh, it's the blacks, it's the Mexicans, the Muslims, the illegals. That's why our jobs are gone. That's why our wages are stagnant. That's why we're not moving ahead. It's those people and not the establishment that is crushing them. Now, it's crazy, right? Now, you have this hate radio that's convincing people that your problems are not from both neoliberalism and neo-corporate and neoconservative warmongers that are keeping us in a continued state of fear and panic while those big corporations rob us of our pay and hoard it at the top. They've convinced them that that's not what's going on. That it's all the least powerful people in the country that are doing all this terrible stuff. Okay, no, it's those guys. It's those guys. And from that, we've seen the right get more and more extreme, and the left, the Democrats, I should say, not the left, continues to try to chase them. And then here's what you end up with. You end up with Trump. So what I'm saying is that if the Republican Party goes down, you can't necessarily blame it all on Trump. He's basically the gas that got thrown on an already gigantic dumpster fire. They created this monster. Now they got to fix it. And this ex-Republican believes that they actually will. He once said, he said once Republicans start bailing on him, the stage is set for impeachment. That's what they want to do. And if they get a majority of Republicans, then yes, that is definitely a possibility that they could remove him from office. Asked if Republicans would go that far, the senator replied, not yet. Oh, no, wait a minute. Not yet. Not yet. What, are you waiting for something? You just said that he's dangerous, that he's unfit, and that you're praying that he doesn't do something stupid. What are you waiting for? You better sit down for this one. Here's the thing, he said. The Republicans really want to get this tax bill through. That's all they have going for him. Really. Quote, they don't just want voters, or they don't want to face voters in 18 or 20 without something to show for it. They're just praying Trump doesn't do something really, really stupid before the tax bill. Mr. Reich asked, like a nuclear war? So let me get this straight. Again, the Republicans know he's a danger, right? But they're hanging on so they can get tax cuts. You realize that, I don't know, there's not going to be any money if Trump blows up the world. I'm not saying that that's definitely going to happen. I'm saying that he's so stupid that he could blunder us into it. But they're like, you know what, we're going to hedge our bets because we got to make sure to get our tax cuts. I mean, how stupid and greedy are these people? Boy, I'm just really worried about my donors not getting their tax cuts. So I'm just going to pray that this man baby doesn't start nuclear tensions with Kim Jong-un. For fuck's sake, stop thinking of your own greed and actually do something to help the country. Now, finally, he says, look, all I can tell you is many of the people I talk with are getting freaked out. It's not as if there's any careful strategizing going on. Not like, well, do we balance the tax bill against nuclear war? No. They're worried as hell. They're also worried about Trump crazies, all the ignoramuses he has stirred up. Now, look, as far as the crazy people, yeah, that's actually a valid concern. Donald Trump has stirred up some of the worst people. But you have to remember, those people always existed before Donald Trump. They were always part of the Republican base. I'm not talking about the people who were anti-establishment, who want to change, who wanted to throw a brick through the window and say that, hey, man, we're not going to go with that neoliberal establishment corporate bullshit. I'm not talking about those people, all right? Those people, you're not the crazies. And there's a significant number of people who voted for Trump with that mindset. I think that their vote was, I don't agree with their vote, but I can understand why they did it. No, what I'm talking about, the crazies, right? We're talking about the racists, the Klan, the alt-right, the neo-Nazis, the anti-government lunatics who believe they're, oh no, I'm a sovereign citizen. That means that none of your laws apply to me while I'm living here. So much for being law and order, right? They're part of the base. Yes, they are a small one, but they're a loud one, and they have all voted for Trump. And so, yes, these senators, these congressmen do have those people to worry about because there's a small chance, but a chance that a few of them could end up turning violent. But for God's sakes, still, do something for the country. Please. Now, finally, when asked what was going to happen, he said, quote, you got me. I'm just glad I'm not there anymore. Trump's not just a moron. He's a despicable human being, and he's getting crazier, paranoid, unhinged. Everybody knows it. I mean, we're in shit up to our eyeballs with this guy. If you're in so much shit, then forget about the tax cuts. By the way, those tax cuts, they're actually going to harm the country. They're actually going to harm the middle class. And so that's why we shouldn't do them. But anyway, forget about them. Forget about the tax cuts, right? I mean, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to get some tax cuts with a corporate Democrat in office. You couldn't have waited until then. You got them with President Obama. But anyway, look, again, forget about those. Do something to help the country. Convince your colleagues to put the country before both your re-election campaigns and your goddamn donors. Because it's not going to get better. Trump's not suddenly going to get presidential, okay? No, he's going to get worse. And the longer that he's in office, the more damage he's going to do. And I'm not just talking about the policy level. The stuff that he's normalized as a president is going to stay with us for a very long time. This guy, through his actions, has shined a big spotlight on the gross underbelly of America while simultaneously giving it a gigantic voice in our politics. That's not a good thing. Okay, he's got to go. And he's got to go now. The question is whether or not the Republicans will let their greed get in the way. And sadly, right now, we have their answer. Oy. Okay. Let's go to Puerto Rico. Not literally, of course. Now, Puerto Rico is still in bad shape after being ravaged by Hurricane Maria last month. Millions of people still remain without power. Water is hard to come by. In fact, they've had to warn people not to take water from the Superfund sites that are in Puerto Rico. So, Superfund sites obviously has contaminated, irradiated water. And they've had to warn people, hey, you shouldn't drink from that. People are getting so desperate that they're going to the Superfund sites, right? So, you know, again, the problems with clean water, getting medicine there, and now there's a real danger of diseases spreading from people not having, you know, proper sanitation, stuff like that. All the infrastructure has been essentially destroyed, okay? So, look, so there have been a lot of problems getting that kind of aid that we've been sending to people who need it. Now, that's despite a lot of people that are there doing their best to actually help out. But the result from the administration's attempt to help have been a bit of a disaster. Now, the Trump administration, because of that, has been receiving some criticism for the delayed response in helping the relief effort. Now, the biggest example of that was the mayor of San Juan. So, in response to the criticism, first he says, quote, they want everything done for them when it should be a community effort. 10,000 federal workers now on island doing a fantastic job. I wouldn't say they're doing a fantastic job. This is a very, very difficult thing. Okay, this is a very, very. I mean, it needs, like, these people need a lot of help and a lot of resources for a very, very long time. It's not an easy thing to fix, and it's not going to be fixed within 3 weeks. So, but anyway, what Trump's tweet pretty much meant is, hey man, you know how these people are. They're lazy. Why don't they fix their own communities? It's up to them. It's not up to the federal government. Dude, they got hit by a hurricane. And not only that, but there are a lot of people out there that can't get access to water and food. They need help. They need help. And we're supposed to help them. Now, in the face of more criticism, Trump is now threatening to remove federal aid. Federal aid. Now, according to the Washington Post, declaring the U.S. territory's electrical grid and infrastructure to have been, quote, a disaster before hurricanes, Trump wrote on Thursday that it will be up to Congress how much federal money to appropriate to the island for its recovery efforts, and that relief workers will not stay there forever. So let me give you the exact tweets, right? He said, Puerto Rico survived the hurricanes. Now a financial crisis looms largely of their own making, says Cheryl Atkinson. A total lack of accountability, said the governor. Electric and all infrastructure was disaster before hurricanes. Congress to decide how much to spend. We cannot keep FEMA, the military, and the first responders, who have been amazing under the most difficult circumstances in Puerto Rico forever. Oh, what the fuck, man? Yeah, did he give the same sort of response to Louisiana or Texas? Has he said, oh man, Texas, by the way, like, we got to get rid of we can't have those people stay forever, you know what I mean? You're gonna have to come together and fix it yourself? No, of course not. And you know why? It's because it's Puerto Rico. It's because, oh, it's those people. The man cannot help with his racism. So basically he goes and he starts blaming the people of Puerto Rico, and again threatening to pull back aid. Hey, dumbass, these people are American citizens. He's such an incompetent buffoon. Again, let's go back to Texas. Imagine if he did this with Louisiana or Texas, right? Sorry, Texas, you were a mess before the storm, before the hurricane. Our guys, we can't stay there forever, so you're just going to have to stop being lazy and pull together and fix your own communities. That would be outrageous. See, but he's not going to do that because he sees Texas as real America, but not Puerto Rico. Oh, no, that's not America. That's just an island filled with, you know, those people. This is a dog whistle, but since Trump's a moron, this whistle is loud enough for a human to hear, and we're all hearing it. Hey, people of Puerto Rico, it's your fault. Stop being lazy. Rebuild yourself. It was your fault that you had all this this debt problems and all this, and we're spending so much money. In fact, he complained that recovery efforts had thrown our budget a little out of whack. and said that the death toll was lower than a real catastrophe like Hurricane Katrina. So not only is it not real America, but they actually didn't suffer a real disaster. For Christ's sakes, this is disgusting. This is grotesque. Look, FEMA and federal help needs to stay there until the job is done, period. And they actually need to do something better to be able to make sure that all the aid that's there reaches everybody who needs it, okay? And if they need more money, fine. We give them more money. That's what we're supposed to do. We don't pull petty bullshit, okay? We don't leave our own people to die because of one man's ego. But Trump, that's exactly what he's going out there and saying we should do. You know, hey man, they made fun of me, and they're a disaster, so we're just going to pull back. I don't feel like spending money on Puerto Rico. God, he's a dangerous buffoon. Dangerous to the country and dangerous to Puerto Rico. This is why we didn't want him in office in the first place. You present him with a real disaster, and this is what happens. He's a dangerous buffoon. He's got to go. He's got to go. Okay. Let's move on to our next story, huh? Now, President Trump's comments about the NFL are starting to make even Rush Limbaugh feel a little nervous. Now, Limbaugh, who has previously expressed his concern about Trump's tweets, made his feelings on the president's interference in the ongoing NFL protests very clear on his show on Wednesday. He said, quote, "There's a part of the story that's starting to make me nervous, and it's this. I'm very uncomfortable with the president of the United States being able to dictate the behavior and power of anybody. That's not where this should be coming from." Now, this is in response to tweets on Wednesday suggesting NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell was demanding players to stand for the national anthem. He tweeted, "It's about time that Roger Goodell, the NFL, is finally demanding that all players stand for our great national anthem, respect our country." Now, as I've repeated over and over again, and I will again, this protest is not about the flag. It's not about the country. It's about systemic racism against African Americans as well as police brutality. We didn't make it about the flag. Trump made it about the flag in order to distract from the real message that they had of, hey, please stop killing us. Stop killing black people that are unarmed. That'd be great. Now, Limbaugh continues, Trump is continually tweeting, "I know what he's doing, and I understand why he's doing it, and his motives are pure. Don't misunderstand. But I don't think that it's useful or helpful for any employee anywhere to be forced to do something because the government says they must." Holy shit. That is an actual conservative position. I didn't think he had it in him. Wow. Now, he said this is coming from a good place. But despite that, even Limbaugh's like, hold on there, man. Whoa, whoa, whoa. The government cannot order a private organization to deny people their First Amendment rights. And you actually can't get involved in trying to order an organization to deprive people of First Amendment rights. Even if you're incredibly conservative, especially if you're incredibly conservative, you can't argue that these NFL players don't have the right to protest. Even if it melts your snowflake, even if you're really, really upset, you can't sit there and say, well, they actually don't have a right, because that's untrue. That would be against the First Amendment of the Constitution. So he is actually pointing out that, hey man, he's becoming a little authoritarian, and that's starting to make me a little bit nervous. Now, there are more people that are nervous about Donald Trump, and that's Neil Cavuto. Now, he goes on to talk about his attacks on Senator Corker. He says, now I know that you say that Senator Corker started all this bad-mouthing, but last time I checked, you are the President of the United States. So tweeting out these tacky insults just seems beneath you. You are running out of friends faster than you are running out of time. You might not like Bob Corker, but a lot of senators do, and you need those senators too, sir. So that's both Rush Limbaugh and Neil Cavuto. He's starting to lose them both. Oh boy. Hey man, to conservatives, I warned you. We warned you. We knew who Trump was. We knew he would be a disaster, and we knew that he would bring about constitutional crises with his fucking Twitter. And he's doing just that. Okay, this is not hyperbole. We were not playing politics. He's dangerous, and we knew that he's dangerous, and we told you he was dangerous. Now would you say, oh, libtard? You're just trying to get Hillary elected. You think I really wanted to get Hillary elected? I voted for Bernie. Bernie would have won. I'm just saying. But look, Trump is losing his support in Congress, and he's now even starting to lose members of the right wing, Fox News, and Rush Limbaugh. The rats are starting to jump off the ship. And Limbaugh might actually end up being the next. And boy, would that be a weird day. All right, anyway. Let's go to our last story. Let's switch it up finally and do something somewhat positive. Actually, this is a good story. All right. Now, the police officer who forcefully arrested a nurse for refusing to draw blood from a sedated patient was just fired. Now, he was fired because of footage of a July 26th incident that showed the on-duty nurse at University Hospital in Salt Lake City forcibly being handcuffed and dragged into a police car after she refused to let the cop draw blood from an unconscious patient without the patient's consent. So this is Alex Wubbles. She was the nurse, and she said, "Hey man, look, I'm just giving you hospital policy. We don't do that without a warrant. You don't have a warrant, so we can't exercise that search." Now, I want to show you some footage of Wubbles getting arrested by Officer Jeff Payne. Let's take a look.
Brad, I'm just putting on speaker so you can. So I have this. It says obtaining blood samples for police enforcement from patients suspected to be under the influence. Okay, this was something that you guys agreed to with this hospital. The three things that allow us to do that are if you have an electronic warrant, patient consent, or patient under arrest, and neither of those things. The patient can't consent. He's told me repeatedly that he doesn't have a warrant, and the patient is not under arrest. So I'm just trying to do what I'm supposed to do. That's all.
He's the one that has told me no.
Yeah, but sir, you're making a huge mistake right now. Like you're making a huge mistake because you're threatening a charge.
Okay.
Oh, please.
No, we're done. No, we're done. You're arrested.
Hey.
We're done.
Sir, I had administrative.
Hey. Hey.
Stop me, man!
Hey.
You're assaulting me! Stop! Stop! I've done nothing wrong! I have administrative.
I'll hold your phone.
I've done nothing wrong! Leave my phone!
Okay, so look, that's enough. That's hard to watch. But as you can see, that was insane. All she was doing is saying, look, you don't have a warrant. I'm doing my job. I'm trying to protect patient confidentiality. And he's like, that's enough. I'm going to arrest you anyway. Now, after that footage came out, the officer, Jeff Payne, who did the arrest, and his supervisor were both put on leave. Now, according to a department spokesperson, Sergeant Brandon Shearer, Detective Jeff Payne, following that footage and being put on leave, has now finally been fired. Not only that, but Detective Payne's superior supervisor, Lieutenant James Tracy, who was all at the scene, was demoted to the rank of officer. Now, I'm going to read you a disciplinary letter obtained by the Associated Press from the Salt Lake City Police Chief Mike Brown. Now, he wrote that Detective Payne's behavior was inappropriate, unreasonable, unwarranted, discourteous, disrespectful, and had caused significant disrepute to the department. In the letter addressed to Payne, Brown says, quote, "You've demonstrated extremely poor professional judgment, especially for an officer of 27 years of experience, which calls into question your ability to effectively serve the public and the department." According to the Associated Press, in a similar letter to Tracy, Chief Brown described a lack of judgment and leadership on Tracy's part as evidenced by his order to detain nurse Alex Wubbles without understanding the entire situation. As a result, Chief Brown wrote, I no longer believe that you can retain a leadership position in the department. So now this is great because we actually have a little bit of justice. Now, it was very clear that the nurse was doing her job and the police officer was abusing his authority. This is open and shut, okay? Now, I do want to bring up, even though there's justice in this case, there's a lot of injustice in many other cases, mainly when this type of confrontation happens with people of color. Now, that's something we've been warning about, right? That when it comes to people of color, the police have been out of control, and we actually need to do something about it. Well, now it happens to a white girl, and hey, look at that, we have justice. Now, I'm not putting anything in the nurse. I think she was doing exactly what she should have been doing, and it actually turned out in her favor, which is great. I'm glad that she, did not get charged with any crimes, and and that there's actually justice in this case. But again, in a lot of other cases, when it's not somebody who's white, when it's a person of color, well, there is no justice in these cases. Now, this is, of course, a huge problem inside the police department, not just in Salt Lake City, but in different police outfits all over the country, where you have that endemic racism, and that, of course, leads to police overreaction and to police brutality, like you've seen. And yes, we do have justice in this case, but we need to start getting justice and holding police accountable in a lot of these other cases as well. And not only that, but I think we have to change the training. Okay, we've got to start doing better police training so that they don't go to overreaction, so they don't immediately go to violence, so they can actually de-escalate the situation before things get bad. But in this, again, this is just a pure abuse of power case, and it was evidently clear, and it was only natural and perfectly reasonable that the police officer be fired, and that his supervisor also be demoted. I would have taken him being fired too, because again, he did nothing to stop that situation, which he clearly should have, but at least there was some sort of justice today. And now the other important thing is that it shows that, look, while this mainly happens to people of color, this is also starting to spill over into affecting white people. That should get people, and it's really sad that it has to come to that point, but that should get some white people to say, hey, you know what? Maybe this is a real problem. Maybe we need to actually do something about it. Again, it's super sad that it takes that for other people to understand, but if it results in sort of positive change in policing, then I guess I'll take it. Even though, again, it's super wrong for it to have to happen to someone who looks like me, for it to actually bring in some change. But okay, anyway, that's it. That is all I've got for you today. I've got another show tomorrow. Make sure to like and share the stream if you haven't already, so give us a nice thumbs up. Also, if you want to see more stuff like this, please hit the subscribe button. Help us out there. And if you really appreciate the show and appreciate what we're doing here, please go to our Patreon page, patreon.com/TYTNation, and sign up to keep us on the air. That's it. Love you guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you guys tomorrow. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, TYT Nation.